All right, the party's gonna start. Hope you guys grab a drink and a cookie. Thank you all for coming. This is really about preserving an important part of Carbondale's history. So your questions will be welcome in the end. And we have a little bit of a path through the conversation, and I just really want to thank the Carbondale Historical Society board members, and Will here has really led the way on this event. I believe next month is going to be focused on cowboys and farmers, so I hope you guys will come to that as well. But this one is about such an important time in Carbondale's history with mining. So we're preserving this on Facebook, and it'll be on our podcast. So hopefully future generations can enjoy this as well. And again, thanks for coming, and Will, take it away.
Well, thank you all again for being here. Also, thanks to numerous organizations that support our efforts, the town of Carbondale, the Rebeccas, and of course KDNK for this event. And most of all, thank you for being here to share your stories.
Thank you.
These are times that we don't talk about as much. The Aspen silver miners are all gone, but the Carbondale coal miners are still here. So I wonder if each of you could introduce yourselves to our folks both online and in person, and
Just bring this down. You guys pass it down.
And kind of share what got you into mining and what your role was in the Carbondale mining scene.
My name is Robert Congdon. I got here in 1978. Worked at the Carbondale gas station over here with Mark Luttrell, making $3 an hour, I think. And my wife became pregnant about 10 minutes after we got into Colorado. And I needed insurance, and I needed to make some more money. So coal mining, as much as I didn't want to do it, I kind of needed to do it. So that's my introduction.
And where did you end up, Robert? Which mine did you work?
Oh, I was at Thompson Creek Mine for about 6.5 years. We were the good mine.
Yeah.
He was my boss.
Don't tell nobody. My name's Smiley Wise. And we moved down here from Leadville. I was born in Leadville, Colorado. We moved down here when I was 7, which I think got around 55. Anyway, I ended up in the service for 3 years. When I got out of the service, I came back to Carbondale. And basically, back then, the only money there was in coal mining. My dad was a coal miner, so I went to coal mining. He didn't like it. My mom didn't like it, but anyway, I worked 12 years for Mid-Continent Coal and Coke, and 5 years for Thompson Creek. And after that, I went from here to there, and I ended up, my retirement years were 24 years with the town of Carbondale as a public works supervisor.
Hi, Gene Schilling. I grew up in the valley, kind of like Smiley. Graduated from Roaring Fork High School. Worked different places around here. Went to Denver for a while and worked at Elitch's. Came back here in 1974 to work at Sunlight and worked there for a while, and then a job opened at the coal mine, and like Smiley said, it was the only place to make money. And I worked in the coal mine from 1975 to 1981-ish to after the explosion, and I was part of the crews that went down in the mine after the explosion. I was the graveyard foreman the night before the mine exploded. After that, I went to work for Garfield County Emergency Communications. And then after that, I went to work for the Carbondale Police Department. And I worked for the town of Carbondale for 37.5 years, during which time I also drove school bus and volunteered at the fire department. And currently, I still drive school bus, and I'm the president of the board of directors for the Carbondale Rural Fire Protection District. And I did get to drive my 4 grandchildren on the school bus, which was one of my goals. And these guys is granddaughter.
My name is Mario Villalobos. I got here
Yours
in
too.
76. I was 18. I didn't go right into the coal mine right away. I I did construction, heavy equipment operator. It was just a natural for me. There wasn't much, like Robert and everybody else said, there wasn't much money. Coal mine was a place where you wanted to, if you wanted insurance and you wanted to make money, that was the place to go. So I got in there at late 79, and I was there till 83. The reason I quit is after the third time of almost getting killed, you know, I thought, okay, that's a warning sign, I better get out of there. So I was there during the explosion. Actually, we were in Carbondale having a meeting at that time when the call came in, and it was terrible. But anyways, so after that, I started carving marble. My wife and I, we owned the Jeep Tour business up in Marble for a lot of years, and we started in '84. I started carving marble, and we started the marble gallery there. So we owned that, and so that's pretty much what I've been doing. I worked in the quarry off and on for 15 years, a marble quarry, and I finally had to give that up for health reasons as well. And so then I decided, I've been building most of my life, so I started my own construction company. So I was a general contractor for a lot of years. So I did it all, and I did it all because I wanted to live in Marble. So when I got here, I moved to Marble in '76, and I've been there ever since.
Thank you all. Can the folks in the back hear even when we're not super close to the mic?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we got thumbs up from everybody. Wonderful. Well, then launching in, take me to like your first few weeks, first year on the job. What kind of experiences you had, and whether it met your expectations? Was it what you thought it would be, or was it something completely different?
Robert, you want to start? You
Sure.
got your homework already.
Yeah,
You got your notes.
He's the only one that brought notes.
I'm the only one that can write.
That's true, probably. Gene Schilling, he can write.
No, yeah, the tickets he writes. Well, I didn't really have any expectations when I got to the mine. I did have one real big problem though. I was very claustrophobic. And I didn't know if I could go down in that damn mine. We sat out there for a week getting our training, and I was just getting more nervous and more nervous and more nervous and more nervous. And I'll admit, the first time I went in there, I puked. I went around the corner and I puked my guts out. But I kept thinking, a baby's coming, a baby's coming. And I kept telling myself I'm in a big cellar, a stinky, rotten, big cellar. And it took me, a few weeks before I finally acclimated and got used to it, and it was all right after then. But the first 6 months of coal mining was pretty exciting. It was, dangerous and exciting and fun, and you're learning how to blast and run jacklegs and shovel. A lot of shoveling. I enjoyed that first 6 months. After that, it was just plain old work. You never knew what was next. You could be on your hands and knees moving cinder blocks, because we were in Thompson Creek, and one of the first rules of mining, if you can help it, is you don't go downhill. But all the Thompson Creek coal had been mined from up top. The easy coal was gone, and we were here. And they didn't put any stoppings in there. So we had to climb on our hands and knees with solid blocks and build these walls underneath to keep the gas out. And we did that for about a year. But looking back on it, I'm glad I had that experience. It's money can't buy experience like that, It was good days.
Well, I started out in Mid-Continent. Never really had expectations. I kind of leery about the stories I heard from my dad. They didn't usually talk about it much, but when I first went underground, they took me over to Four Mine, and it was a rock pile. It wasn't really a coal mine. They took me down to the bottom of the tailpiece, which wasn't very far. I didn't have a grizzly like the other mines did. So my job was to break up all the rocks that come to the conveyor belt. A buggy would come up and dump them, And if I could break it as it goes by on the belt, I could break it. But if not, I had to jerk it off. If I couldn't jerk it off, I had to jump on the belt, ride the belt till I could throw it off. But then I had to go back and make sure that I got all those rocks broke up and throw them on a belt. Well, it only took about 3 months, and I ended up with carpal tunnel syndrome on both hands. So I had those operated on, and back to work I went. I worked my whole way from the tailpiece to every job other than electrician's or a mechanic's job. Running buggies, loaders, miners. You learn fast if you want to be the high-paying job, which is a miner, you ran in gas. You didn't have a choice. If you get running gas, then you wasn't a miner operator. So the first night I threw, this is really crazy, but I threw my coat over the sniffer that told me how much gas it was and about to shut the miner down. I threw my coat over it, and I kept running and had a big pile of coal behind me, and the loader was behind, so face boss coming in and says, "You realize you got 35% gas clear back at the tail at the loader?" And I says, "No," I said, "I am not back there, I'm up here." So if it was 35 back there, who knows where it was, where I was at. But the first perfect mixture is 9% for an explosion. So somewhere in between, I said, just make sure there's no sparks. So that's how stupid I was. And then I worked my way up to a boss job, and I ended up getting into a big hassle with the superintendent. And I was face bossing, so I quit Mid-Continent and I went to work in Thompson Creek. That was quite an experience because I walked from a mine that had full automotive, full equipment to here we are. Here's Congdon drilling and shooting coal, running a slusher, which is just a bucket on a cable, pulling it down to put it on a belt line. So it was quite interesting.
I guess I had some idea what was going to be there. My stepfather worked at Mid-Continent, and he also worked at Leadville in molybdenum mines, and he also worked down at Cameo. So it went in, it met my expectations of what it was, and I have to say I really enjoyed my time there working in the coal mine. The worst part about it for me was being cold because the wind blew through there pretty heavily. And like Smiley, I went through all the positions there was, you know, buggy, shuttle driver, loader operator, and eventually got promoted to boss. And I also had my electrical certificate, so I was electrical certified in the mine. And then, you know, we had the explosion and things went from there.
I guess I was a slacker of the bunch. I just shuttle car operator and miner's helper. And so I was really strong, so I could carry a lot of stuff. And so that job just suited me. What I really liked about it when I first went in is I was just a young kid. I was only 22 years old or something like that. It was an adrenaline rush, you know, and when you don't have no family, nobody to worry about you, or you don't worry about anything. It was just like a bunch of kids in there. We scared the hell out of each other because you shut your light off and you're pitch black. I mean, I'm talking, you couldn't see nothing. I mean, it was dark, dark, dark. So it was a lot of fun to let your imagination run wild, you know, scare the heck out of each other. And that's pretty much what I remembered about it. There was some rough times. I mean, we had mine cave-ins. We had one time where one of the crews hit an underground lake type thing, and it was so powerful that it grabbed the miner and the shuttle cars, and it pushed them down 100 yards or 100 feet down the next crosscut. And I was, at that time, I was a green hat. So I was way down at 6th Drive shoveling. This was in 5 Mine, Mid-Continent, by the way. And And I heard this rush of water, and it was just one crew, and then I was the guy running the belt lines, cleaning the belt lines, and I heard this water, and it kept getting louder and louder and louder, and it was coming at me because the mine went down like this, and I was down at the bottom. And as I heard the rush of the water, I heard somebody screaming on the intercom, on the phones we had, and they're like, Beltman, and I was a Beltman, and Mario, are you all right? Are you all right? And I'm like, and I hear the water coming closer and closer, and it was coming at me, and there was what we call Kennedys, and there was three roadways, 1, 2, and 3, and I was at the first one, which was the lowest roadway there, and I could hear the water coming at me, and I thought, I better go uphill. So I went uphill a little ways, and I went to the second Kennedy, and I could still hear the water coming. And I thought, I'm gonna go I better go to the highest one. So I went to the highest one, and then I saw this wave. I mean, it covered the whole tunnel. I mean, it just coming right at me. So I jumped through the Kennedy, slammed it shut, and the water went down. And I didn't know what happened. So I just ran as fast as I could to where the guys were working at the face. And it was scary, but it was comical only because of one guy. But anyways, I got up to him, and everybody was soaking wet. And I looked at the miner, and these things weighed tons, and the water just pushed them out of the way like they were nothing. And these guys were in the shuttle car operators. You had 2 seats, one facing this way, and then you turned and face the other way. And I think that's the only reason the shuttle car guys didn't get hurt, because they were able to jump and lean against it, and the water just went over the top of them. But when I got up to the face boss, he says, "Are you okay? You okay?" And I said, "I'm not wet. You guys are all wet, But it was one guy, and I don't remember it. It was a long time ago. He was a fighter, and here he is soaking wet, scratches and cuts all of him. He goes, "Villalobos." I said, "Yeah," because I hear you know karate. And I'm like, "What? You're asking? Are you kidding me?" It just kind of. It was just such a comical moment. I mean, these guys almost died, and that was his first question to me. I hear you know karate, So, anyways, but the reason I went in was because of the money and the insurance. But the other thing is, when I first got here from Arizona, I was just cowboys. We straight out of Arizona, cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and we saw these guys, when we got to Glenwood and Carbondale. And I was thinking to myself, man, there must be a boatload of rock stars running around. Because they all had black mascara on their face. All that black mascara. Yeah. And none of us knew that, they were coal miners. And they could rip you in half anytime they wanted to. But that's what I remembered. It was kind of comical to me. And we were in one of the dangerous mines the Mid-Continent was probably the most dangerous in the whole United States at that time. It was just full of gas.
It was classified the most dangerous in the world.
Yeah, you had to be real on your toes. And that's what I enjoyed about it. I enjoyed the thrill of, just a bunch of guys, guys older than me, and they were just like a bunch of little kids going in there and just enjoying, scaring the hell out of each other.
That's a great lead in, your sort of comment about all the guys with mascara. What was the relationship between the mines and the town? You guys, you pretty much all said it was the only place to make money. But obviously not everybody here was working in the mines.
Yeah, it was, this is just what I remembered living in Marble. I played guitar when I first got here, and I was 18, and going to the bars in Redstone, the townhouse, and the inn, the Redstone Inn, and we'd go in there. And what I remember about that little short period before I became a coal miner is that we'd go in there, and I'd play the first 3 with my buddy. We'd play the first 3 sets, but on the 4th set, you had the cowboys fighting the hippies, and then you had the coal miners fighting the cowboys. I mean, and there was always going to be a big old fight. I mean, that's. I mean, you wouldn't I grew up in Detroit, so I know what gangs are like. But it was comical to see these guys going at it like that. The cowboys against the hippies, then the coal miners against everybody. I mean, they just would fight anybody. They didn't care.
And then it continued at the
He
Black
was one of
Nugget.
them.
Yeah, right.
For years, that's the way it was. You know? The same thing. They all thought that they were wearing mascara because when you showered, the black wouldn't come off from around your eyes, and you'd go into the Black Nugget because that was the main place that the miners hung out in Carbondale, and you know they'd get in fights there all the time, and it was just that's kind of the way it was the way of the life back then, you know.
Actually, surprisingly, the town was actually pretty receptive to everybody because everybody fought. The only ones that were on the bottom of the totem pole was the hippies. I'll tell you this, Mid-Continent would have a Christmas dinner. Well, every time we had a picnic or a Christmas dinner, it turned into a major brawl. So the last Christmas party we had was down at the Colorado Hotel. And me and my wife and another couple showed up. And this waitress came over and was really nervous. And I says, "What's the problem?" She says, "I've heard about you coal miners." I says, "Oh, don't worry. Tonight's going to be a nice, quiet night." About 10 minutes later, one table went upside down and the fight was on. And she come by me and she says, "And this is quiet?" I said, "So far."
You know, everything was against me when I got here and went into the coal mines because I was a hippie. I had hair down past my shoulders, and everyone looked at me like, "You ain't got a chance." Well, after about 3 months, I cut my hair. Smart thing to do. I got rid of the school bus that I moved here in that had New York plates on it. Got that out of the way, too. You know, I had to clear my past up so I could go forward. But the people in town, I think they really appreciated us because most of the people in town were dependent on the coal mines. If they didn't work there, they were suppliers to it. And there was a lot of people employed to keep us working. And I really liked the community we had then. You know, everyone knew everybody. You walk down the streets, you know, and whether you liked them or not, you talked to them. It was like Andy Taylor from Mayberry almost, with coal miners, you know, so. And there was a lot of fights. I remember once I got in a fight. I got in a fight with my best friend a lot of times after we've been drinking in the parking lot over not where the old city market was. There used to be a grocery on the other side over there. And Rudy Casillas, who just passed away about 6 months ago, and he got in this big ass fight. And we went down there after we got off the mines and had beers every night. And the cops showed up. And they got out and sat on the hood of the car and watched us fight. You know, we never killed anybody, but we sure we had a relationship that it's hard to understand. Because the next day we're laughing and on we're going, and you know, and I don't know. I'm glad it's not like that today, but I'm glad I didn't miss those days.
Can I say one thing?
I'm sorry about my phone.
What I remember about the parties we used to have at Colorado Hotel, and I love the guy, he just passed away, Twerp Anderson. He just knew when there was he'd be up there playing, and he just knew when something was gonna go down, and he knew exactly who was gonna start it. And he'd drive with, "Hey boy, put your coat back on. Don't be taking your coat off." And he'd be playing. They'd go back into the song. He just knew what was gonna happen. Hey, knock that shit off over there. And the guys would, but everybody listened to Twerk, you know. But then after everybody started drinking a little more, and then he got a little where he couldn't control it either. But yeah, we all loved Twerk. So.
Mario, you mentioned sort of not having somebody to worry about and the adrenaline rush, but I'm curious, you know, you guys have alluded to a lot of scary stuff, both in and out of the mine. How much fear was there, and how much fear was there from your family?
Well, that was the nice thing about being young and dumb. There was no fear. For me personally, there was no fear. I grew up in the streets, so living up here was like all of a sudden finding Disney World, or the Disney movies, the old movies. I didn't know that there were places like this that existed. So when I guess I should go back a little. I got in trouble when I was 12, 13, and I got sent from my parents. They told me they were going to take me away from my parents, and I got beat up. I was never in a gang. I had a learning disability, so I was a loner. That's the worst thing you can be in the city where I grew up. And so anyways, I got shipped to Arizona, and the guy who ran the halfway house was there when I turned 18. They bought Beaver Lake Lodge there in Marble, and that's, I was on my way to Alaska to work on the end of the pipeline at the time as a welder's helper. I could weld pretty good. I just had good hand-eye coordination. And anyways, the folks that I came up here with, they became my parents, David and Martha Bemis, and we stopped in Grand Junction, and now I know why they did, because they knew that when we got to Marble, I was going to love it. But we stopped, and we could have made it, and it was still daylight. And they stopped there and waited till it was almost dark to get me up to Marble. And then when I got up to Marble, I woke up the next morning, and I could not believe it. It was just like a dream world, And I didn't care what I had to do. I was going to stay there, no matter what. I didn't care what kind of work I was going to. It just didn't matter to me. I went from making $2 an hour, working from 9 or 5 o'clock in the morning till 9 at night. Out in I was a ranch hand, and to coming up here, and some guy come up to the lodge and says, "I need somebody to put insulation under my house," and there was only about this much room. How much you paying? $650. $650? Hell yeah, I'll do that. So after that, I got the reputation of being a worker. So everybody kept hiring me. But as far as the coal mine goes, it was fun to me. It was adrenaline rush, and there was no, this is scary. Try to get, walking through a dark alley at night. Now that's scary. Yeah.
You can pass, Gene.
Well, I guess I'll answer the question. I enjoyed it. Like I said, my stepfather was a miner for a lot of years. There was hazards down there. You could be someone that put your coat over the sniffer on the miner, or you could try and be as safe as you could be. But the guys that put their coat over the sniffers on the miner were the ones that caused a lot of issues for other people that were in there. And over the years, I had a couple injuries. I was driving what they called an IMCO, and it's kind of like a big loader, but it was made for underground. And Robert was talking about, drilling. Well, you put in roof bolts. And one of these roof bolts was sticking out of the wall, and there was water, and the IMCO slid into it, and they had metal cages to protect you. Well, the roof bolt went right past my ear and took off part of my ear right here and pinned me in it, but I had to back it up because that was the only way to get it off. And then when we had the mine explosion, I was the first person, other than my rescue went in first with air packs and stuff, but I was the first person that went in on what they called the man lift. It was, kind of like a train, and it ran on a cable, and there was an operator at the top, and there was 2 wires that went all the way down, and you had a metal piece, and you gave signals, and they called it bells, stop, keep going, lower, upper. So we're heading down into the mine, and we got to the place where the wires had been compromised by the explosion, and we didn't want the car going off the end of the tracks, which we knew was down there. So when Mara was talking about the phones, there was a phone there, so I jumped off, hit the button on the phone, and yelled at the lift operator to shut the car down, and he did. And when I did, I got a hairline fracture in my ankle. And so I had to go out on the ambulance, which was an interesting trip.
Man, you were lucky. You were so lucky.
Well, I think probably mining got into my blood. And everybody's always told me my whole life I'm crazy, which I've never argued with. But mid-con, if you want to talk about fear, I've seen fear. I've been in Vietnam, but it was nothing like coal mining. We were pulling coal, what they called pillars. And we would cut a big 100 by 100 square block, and we'd go so far, and then we'd go in and we'd steal from each one of those little blocks until we couldn't steal anymore without it caving on us. Well, we would be in there and we'd be mining, and I'd hold my hand on the roof to feel some vibration. And after you decide it's gonna cave, you throw it in reverse and back out as fast as you can as it's caving. And it's caving right on the front of the miner as you go. So the adrenaline rush, when you get back, we always got back, luckily. But when you get back, you've been so scared, you just fall on the ground and start laughing. And I did that more than once. So that's the only fear I used to have.
Fear got me my last year there. Up until then, it was pretty normal, drilling, blasting. And one thing about Thompson Creek is it wasn't flat. It was a 32-degree pitch like this. You had entryways going this way, then down in another one. So it was like climbing a mountain up and down. Well, the powers that be decided they needed to set a long wall up in there. And I don't know if you know what a long wall is. Up by Redstone, outside where the coke ovens are, there's two big, that's the support that would hold it up. And there'd be like 600 of those. And we had to set them up like this, all the way down. It'd never been done before at that angle. And they set it all up, and I was involved in that, moving around. It took about a year to get the thing up. And they said, if this thing works, you guys will be here forever. Well, that wasn't really my plan, but so be it. Well, they started it up and started running it forward. And this big cutter goes back and forth and onto a conveyor, and it takes it up and then out. And it worked for about 50 feet, and they hit a fault zone. It's still there today. It put them out of business. But before they went out of business, they decided, let's go down below that one even farther and go under the fault and come back up and set another one up. I was on that crew because they laid everybody off. There were maybe 30 of us left there. I was like number 4 on the seniority list at that time. So we would have to go down there and start mining in broken rock. And we were setting angles like this. It was steel, 8-10 foot tall. Arches to go in there. We'd set one up and we'd mine ahead, and it would cave in. We'd take it out, up, water coming down. Thompson Creek was above us. It was raining all the time on you down there. It would take weeks to go 5 feet. It was caving in 50 to 70 feet high. But once it finally would stop, you'd have to go out and set another arch, put some more beams across it, and then get 2 or 3 guys up there and put cribbing all the way to the top. You had guys down there yelling, get out of the way, get out of the way. And we'd put these things on the cribbing to jump underneath as it caved in. I was scared all the friggin' time. It took us over a year and a half to go 175 feet. Many days you were down in there with water up to your waist with electric equipment. It was insane. It was insane. I wish I could have quit. I should have quit. I could have found something else, but I was young and I had another baby on the way.
And you call me crazy.
So, on the subject of safety, several of you have alluded to the explosion. Those of you who were around for that, please share whatever you're comfortable with about your experiences that day and in the aftermath.
I was at the other mine, but it rattled us all hard. That next day when we were up there, we went back to work, and it's like, it was quiet. We all knew exactly what had happened, and we're going, oh my God, this is not a joke. People really get burnt to a crisp, and it was, I I don't know. It's one of those days I'll never forget when I heard about that. And I knew 3 or 4 of the guys. We all knew each other. We didn't know each other real well, but when it's that close to home, it's something that never leaves your mind. You know, it's a scar. I don't think about it now, but back then, you know, went home and my wife would look at me like, you know, you got to do something different. I knew it, but what? There was no other options. There was no tourism. Nobody came to Carbondale, which was good. And I don't know, it really shocked us all. But it really was interesting how the whole community came together and mourned together, and ceremonies and candles and vigils, and yeah, that's all I have.
Well, like my friend says, we lost friends in those explosions. And I lost 3 in the last one. And the only thing I'm going to say is what's scary, it's hard to believe. Within 2 weeks, everybody was back to fighting for the coal, whatever it took. And that's just the way it was. You mourned your fellow workers, but you were there to get the coal out, and so you went for it.
That was the mine I was assigned to, so I knew everybody. They were all my friends. Like I said, I was a night shift foreman, and I'd been working in one mine for a long time. And it was real hard. Like Smiley said, we went back, we were working again, and either unfortunately or fortunately for me, it kind of was the end for Mid-Continent. They lasted a couple years after that, but I think it was such a significant financial impact on them that kind of was the beginning of the end for Mid-Continent. And I got laid off because they had to cut back and they didn't have enough positions for everyone, and I was one of the ones that got laid off. So I guess it was okay for me.
We were having a union meeting at the time, and so we were at the Carbondale Fire Station. I don't even remember what building it was anymore. When we got the call that there was an explosion in one mine, and we all wanted to get up there. I can't do it.
And I guess just to add, I was at home because I'd gotten off in the morning at 6 a.m. and they called us at home to have us go. I was on mine rescue to try and get the people out if there was anyone there. And so that's what we did. And I told you about when I broke my ankle, and that was the last time I was in that mine for quite a while.
Gene or anybody else who lost somebody in that?
I got
okay, you're good.
I'm sorry about that.
No, not at all.
What I remembered is the next day, I used to ride to work with Raggles and another Bob Raggles from Marble. Pick him up. We'd take turns driving, me and Bob Raggles and another guy named Bob at the end of the road. And the strangest thing for me was when we went back to work, they were gone. It was just me riding by myself. So that was a weird thing. But the killer part for me were I figured out that companies like that I might piss somebody off, but companies like that, they just didn't give a shit about the men. My seniority was like 400, it says 480. Well, a lot of these guys, they quit because the emotions got to them, right? So I went back to work, and when I went back to work, my seniority was all the way up like 120. So they didn't give any of these guys their seniority back. They just said, screw you, you quit, you don't get your seniority back. And that really, you know, my dad fought the Union Wars in Detroit, so that really pissed me off. And, so that was if I had a bad experience, that was that drove home. That was it. I mean, they didn't give a crap about the guys.
And this is kind of an open question. We don't have to all answer it if you don't want to. But any stories you want to share about one of those friends you lost in there?
It was just, you know, Bob Raggles and the other guy, and I can't remember his last name. We would stop at the townhouse after work, and when we worked day shift after work, we'd stop at the townhouse and grab a beer. But everybody just got along during the day before everybody got toasted, you know. And after that, it was, you know, you just never knew what was going to happen. But that's what I remember. And then, you know, there was Carl Better. Everybody loved him. His boy died, and we all loved him too. And anyways.
Not really any story specifically, but, you know, it was all the people we knew. And, you know, it always comes back to you because there were sons and daughters that have, you know, been part of the community. And so you have the constant reminder of the mine explosion. You know, Stacy was the mayor. Her dad died in the coal mine, and he grew up here, and he was, you know, a little ahead of me in school, but he was a pretty good friend of mine. And you know, no coal mine stories, just that, you know, he was always trying to help the kids, and he was a coach, and, you know, doing sports, and what a loss, you know. Anything?
I don't think so.
You've also alluded to sort of the 80s and the kind of mining culture drying up in the town. What was that like? What was the transition out of the coal mining era like for all of you?
You know, like I said, I was gonna do anything I could, and Marble was like something out of the movies, Disney World type. So I never really spent a whole lot of time in town. I mean, after the coal mine shut down. Well, I mean, even before I'd come to town maybe once every 2 weeks, you know. Then my wife and I got married, and we'd come to town. You know, we were just some of the most boringest people. We just stay up there in the mountains. We just hermitized ourselves. I don't really remember a lot about the town itself at Carbondale. Mining never did stop. When I went to work, and then we reopened the quarry in 1990, the marble quarries. A lot of the coal miners, they came up there, and they worked up there for us. But I really don't remember too much about the town itself here, because I spent all my time up there.
The town at that point, you know, lost a lot of its income. And I got hired on as a police officer in 1983. And during that period, because they'd lost a lot of their income from sales tax and the other things like that, they put a pay freeze on us for a few years to where we didn't get any pay increases. That was also the same time that they made the cement streets in town. And they did that prior to the mine explosion, and they felt they'd have that income, and they did it on a bond issue, so they had to pay a lot of money to do that. I liked the town back then because it was like 600 people, and not like it is today with all the traffic, but the town lived on and transitioned to other things to be able to make ends meet, and now it's the town that we have today. And you know, it took a long time, but even today we're talking about the mine explosion, and it still lives on and will forever. And I'm glad that we're doing this so people can have the history later.
Well, actually, I'm pretty honored to be here because this is a time in our life that was very dramatic and important. And people need to know what we went through, just because it's part of the town. The town changed, like Gene said, a lot. There's a lot of people had to leave. There was no income. I actually took a month off. I was living at what they call the Aspen Glen now. I had a house out there, and I was out there, and I took and raised horses and broke horses and trained horses for part of my living. So I took a month off, and everybody's worried about there's no work. All my friends would come by and they'd say, well, there's no sense going looking for jobs. There's no work out there. And about a month later, my wife came over and she says, don't you think you ought to go to work one of these days? And I says, well, I am. She said, but it's not enough money. So fortunately, in my time with Mid-Continent, I ended up in their steel fabrication shop. They call it Pitkin Iron, but it was still part of Mid-Continent. In fact, they robbed one another, something terrible. Just for example, Rudy Casillas, that ran the whole organization down here in the shop, he comes over to me and he says, bring your shoe and stuff to work tomorrow. I said, okay. So I brought my shoe and stuff. He says, I got 2 horses on the other side of McClure's Pass. He says, I want you to take somebody with you and go pull those shoes on those horses. And I says, okay. So I picked a guy and we went up and I stopped at the bottom of McClure's, got my binoculars out. I was looking for elk and went up to the top and was looking for elk. Went down and pulled the shoes and looked for elk on the way back. This guy that was with me said, we're going to get in a lot of trouble. We got to get back. I said, no, it's not 3:30 yet. So that's just some of the stuff that Mid-Continent did. It's ridiculous. They blamed the miners for a lot of their problems and a lot of the expenses. But I got some real crazy stories that people just have no idea. I mean, I've seen them bury electric motors that cost 10,000 propane bottles and just bury stuff in the refuge pile. So it wasn't on the books. And I run boom truck for them for a while. And I was at the warehouse one day and somebody had broken the lid on a 55-gallon drum of motor oil. And they said, well, go throw this away. I said, okay, I will. I brought it to Carbondale. It went in the back of my truck. And I threw it away eventually, as it went through my truck. There's a lot of things that happened with Mid-Continent. Mid-Continent had zero respect for any man. Even the upper management did not have any respect for one another. I've been told a lot of times I'd keep my mouth shut, but everybody knows me, I don't keep my mouth shut. But yeah, it's been interesting, and I actually got a job right away. In fact, the day I went out and found a job, I got a job fabricating down at Silk, because I put together the beds that the big concrete slabs that hold the canyon out there from Grizzly Creek Bear. I built the beds, and they laid a bladder in there and they'd pour it in concrete. And that's where I started, and then I did different things after that. I ended up Aspen Mountain for a couple of years, and me and them got into it. So I went to work for the town for almost 24 years. And then me and them got into it. And I had told them that I was ready to retire in 6 months, and so me and the town manager didn't get along too good, so he fired me. So, and I'm just as happy as I can be. I'm retired, enjoying life.
Do you think maybe you had a part in any of that?
I did it all.
But you know, it's kind of like Paul Harvey. The rest of
The rest of the story, yeah. Well, the Thompson Creek people were more of a family since we were such a small group, especially that last 30 of us. I had finally saved up enough money to buy a condo in Carbondale. Oh my God, a condo out of the mobile home, which was almost paid off. And I went up to Hank Ortiz, and we were kind of friends. And he said, "How you doing?" It's good. I'm getting a condo. And he said, "Robert, come here. Don't get the condo." Why? He said, "We're shutting down in the next 4 to 6 months." Thank God he told me that. I went home and to the mobile home, and it looked a lot nicer now because it was almost paid off. He said, "Hon, how do you feel about camping out for the next 6 months?" She goes, "Why?" I says, "I'm getting laid off." "Yeah, I think we should camp out." Well, yeah, our kids were 6 and 4. I had a nice truck and bought a used camper, put on there, and we camped right up at the mine there. And the other guys found out too. We had a whole community, Spring Gulch and down at the river and South, everywhere. All these guys living out there, saving all the money we could save, getting ready for that day when there's no more paycheck. And like I said before, because most of all the other miners, the hundreds have been laid off, they had all the jobs. So there wasn't really a lot of jobs left. And it was a great time of our life. With the kids, we go down fishing, and Char would can the fish up, and we'd pick berries and go to work. I could walk to work, and saved up a lot of money. We had our mobile home rented out. And then winter came, and we were laid off. So I became a firewood cutter. And I cut firewood for 6 years up Burnt Mountain above Rudai. And then I started cutting logs the next year. And then I started cutting corral poles. And before I know it, I had a little business going. I didn't want to go to work for anyone else. You know, I had enough of working in the coal mines. And one thing I had to learn was all the bad habits I learned as a coal miner. You know, you become this person that's ready to do this and ready to run, ready to, you know, just whatever. We weren't nice people a lot of the times.
I was.
He was, yeah, he was. And that's because he finally got married.
I was a good guy.
But no, I don't mean that. We weren't that bad. But
No, you weren't.
We just didn't. We didn't. Well, we lived in the society we lived in, where it was accepted to be us. And I drank way too much. I haven't had a drink in 20 years. It's been the best 20 years of my life. I don't smoke pot anymore. It's been a long time.
Any less either?
No, I don't. I really don't. But, you know, one of your employees, Mark Luttrell, used to pull me over when I was driving through town, get the window down, and these lights come on. He was a rock cutting buddy with me. He'd pull me over to talk about rocks. Mark, you son of a bitch, what are you doing? We still collect rocks together. We still go out. I'm a prospector. I've been prospecting all my life, ever since the coal mines. It started geology into my head. I have a self-inflicted geology degree. And it is real. I travel, I dig, I go to mines. I've worked in a lot of different mines. No coal mines, I'm done with that. The problem with coal mines is you always knew what was coming next, more coal. With other mines, there's something else that's going to come. And I would have never gotten to who I am today without that experience. It made me into who I am today, so I can look back on it and laugh and talk about it, because it's not who I am today. Thank God I'm content, and I never thought I would be.
Well, we're close to out of time, at least on the hour that we originally had set. So anything else you guys want to add before we kind of throw it open to more public questions?
I just thought of one thing when he was talking about living in a trailer and houses. So I was lucky enough to buy a house when I worked in the coal mine and was able to survive and still keep the house after I got laid off. But I was making, and I don't know what others were making, around $50,000 to $60,000 a year, depending on overtime. when I worked in the coal mine, which was quite a bit of money back then. When I worked at the police department, they paid us $1,100 a month. So it was a significant financial decrease, and you really had to watch your pennies after that.
I remember I got offered a property, a little over an acre, back in just when I had been saving my money. I was always good at that. And this guy came up to me and says, "Hey Mario, you want to buy my lot up here? It's got water on it, I got the permit for a well or for the sewer and septic and all that." And I said, "Well, how much you want for it?" And he goes, "I want $5,000." I said, "I ain't gonna pay no $5,000." So a couple of weeks later, I started thinking about it. And then I went back up to him and asked him, "Hey, you still want to sell that property?" He goes, "I already sold it." And I said, "Oh, so there was a lady who had 8 lots there in Marble." And I said, "How much you want for him?" She goes, "I want it $7,000. I hurried up and did it. But man, if my wife and I hadn't have done that way back then, there would have been no way we could live in Marble right now. There's no way. So now we have a house, we have the Marble Gallery, but it was because we did that early, and I always told my kids, don't rent. Try your best not to rent. Hurry up and buy. Buy dirt, even if it's just dirt. Buy it right away, because it's only going to go up, you know. And I had opportunities to buy here in Carbondale too, and I didn't do it. And boy, do I kick myself in the ass. I wanted to tell you one quick story. It's probably not going to be quick, but why? Of the last time I almost got killed in the coal mine, and it was because of the MSHA inspectors. I was one of these kind of guys who, Wally Wareham and I, we got along great. He loved me, I loved him, and I'd do anything, you know. Like Robert said, we had big old pools of water, and the air compressors would go upside down in there, and they'd ask for volunteers. Hey, who's going to volunteer to get in there and get that compressor stood back up, you know, so that we can have some air. And so you had to go in water chest high, you know. So what you had to do, because the water was so dang cold, is you had to get all greased up. So you strip down to your underwear and get greased up and walk out there and stand it up. I did that twice. And so I'm just trying to explain to you that I was never a guy who argued. When somebody said, you know, go do this, I did that, you know. Well, I went in for my swing shift, and MSHA and everybody it was on a Monday, everybody had been in there working all day long, and they were driving under this, I was a shuttle car operator at that time. They were driving under this, under the shuttle car guys had to go all the way to a crosscut, 100 feet across, and have the miner load the coal into the shuttle car, and then you drive out. And they were in there, and the crews, we had 2 crews in there, and then the inspectors. And then we're like, the swing shift guys come in, we're like, what's going on? Oh, we got some buckling going on. The ceiling was buckling. And they told us.
And I think you should tell them. MSHA's the federal inspectors.
Oh, yeah.
That came in and
yeah, they're the ones that's supposed to be on your
Some
side.
of you may know, but I know a lot of times.
Yeah, they're supposed to be on your side,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they're supposed to be taking care of us as miners, you know, against the company. Well, most of the time it didn't work out. Like he was saying, it doesn't work out that way. They were for the company. So anyways, I went in there, and one of my buddies, he got his shuttle car and he went across there, you know, and Wally went out, and my face boss, he tells me, Mario, jump in that shuttle car and get it across there. And just then I see the pop, a piece of the ceiling cave in, just pop. And they told us at the very beginning, one of the first meetings you have, that if you ever see a ceiling bow, you don't go under there, you know. And this thing was bowed. I mean, we had like an 8-foot ceiling, and it was dropped already, you know, up to about 5 foot. So we only had a foot between the ceiling and the lowest part of the shuttle car, the highest part of the shuttle car. So I said, you know what, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm not going to go under there. And I'm a guy who doesn't argue. And my boss started yelling at me. And I said, you know, I don't like people yelling at me, so don't do that. And then, so I asked the inspector, I said, would you go under there? You know, would you drive that shuttle car under there? And he goes, Mario, I'd raise a family under there. And just as he said that, a big chunk fell out of the ceiling. And I started running up because I was pretty fast. I had to go up 200 feet and then over 100. And they said, Mario, shut the power off, shut the power off. So I just ran up as fast as I could because the more pieces started falling out of the ceiling. And I could hear the guy screaming, telling me, go, go, go. And I was running as fast as I could. And I got to the 7200, which is the power station. And it had all these breakers for all the equipment. And I just started slamming them off. Boom, 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 boom. And I got to the 7200, the main breaker at the end, and I hit it. And then there was this vibration inside the coal mine. And I just looked up and I said, I guess I'm going to be seeing you pretty soon, Mom. I didn't get nervous. I didn't get scared. I was just calm. But the whole place got where it was, boom, boom. And it was like it crushing your head, the concussion inside the coal mine. And I thought I was dead, and pitch black, the coal hits you like this and you got your light on and you can't see your hand, you can't see your fingers, you can't see nothing. And I thought I was dead, and then I could feel my face, and I thought, I never saw a white light, so I wondered, I was expecting to see a white light or something. And so I went like this, and I touched the 7200 deal, and I stood up, and I knew kind of where I was. I knew my bearings. So I heard some screaming down, but I couldn't see nothing. So it was like having your eyes closed and you're feeling. And I knew the mine so well by then. I started feeling one log that was holding up the wall, the timber, and I'd go to the next one and the next one. And then I saw a light, like a little pinhole, looking down where the miner was at. And I heard the sound. I heard the guys screaming. And I thought, man, I think they're hurt. And I'm by myself. And then I forget everybody's name. But anyways, I yelled out to him, the miner operator. I said, you all right, you all right? And then they saw there, Mario, help us. And I said, so I just grabbed my light, and I figured if I could see their light, and it was about that big, maybe they'll see my light like that. So I just started waving my light, and I said, come on up, just keep coming. And there were 3 of them. So that means there was the miner operator, miner helper, and the other shuttle car operator. I would have been about halfway under there, and the thing would have came down on me. I would have been dead meat. I'd still be there, But anyways, so we got them up the hill, and they were crying. I mean, it was bad. We all thought we were dead. And they asked me and said, does everybody else make it? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know if anybody else made it. So we started walking down a couple of 100 feet. And then here we saw these guys, they were shining their light. By then the light was a little bit better, so we waved our light to them. They all came up to us, and we were all hugging and carrying on. But when I got outside, man, I went after my boss. I went after my face boss. And the only one that saved his ass was Wally Wareham, my superintendent. He jumped on me, and I want to kill that son. He almost got me killed, And Wally says, Mario, or Villalobos, he goes, Villalobos, I'm glad you finally decided not to do what somebody told you, I don't know if it was me, if it was my mom, but it was, so after that, I decided that was enough for me.
Thanks.
Robert.
I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this or not, but I think I kind of need to. One of the things I did after I got out of the coal mines, I said if I ever work in another mine, it was going to be my own. The American Dream, 1872 mining law. I staked a claim in 1984, and my dream was to open up this mine. I was still logging, cutting logs, and I had a place over here. I made log furniture. I shipped log furniture from here all over the place. I made enough money that I had a little extra to start working on my alabaster mine up Avalanche Creek. I had a little pony up there that would carry water with me. We had pick and shovel and prying them out, and I got a piece of alabaster out and gave it to Steve Kentz, who was an artist, and he carved this beautiful river otter. I go, wow, there might be something to this. And I started mining a little bit more than I should have, and I got in trouble with the state because I didn't have a reclamation plan. And because I was running a chainsaw with a carbide blade on it and cutting some rock on the surface. The same chainsaw I could go over and cut a tree down with, but since it was cutting rock, it was mining. And they fined me $2,500 for doing that. And I go, whoops, better get a permit. Went to the Forest Service, took a couple years, got their permit. Back then, they were user-friendly. They honored the law, they respected it, they lived for it, they didn't interpret it. Gary Ozier used to come up from Rifle, and he'd do an inspection, and how's things going, cup of coffee, we knew each other. But Gary, I need to do this, and this. Wait, you can't do that, but you can do that. I'll write it up and get it to you. It was common sense. Prevailed. As time went on, Pickens County didn't like what I was doing, so they decided they're going to shut me down and they're going to sue me. And they did. 9 years in court, I defended the mining law of 1872. 9 years of my life trying to stay alive, making log furniture so I can have enough money to pay a lawyer, which I was never kept them up to date. I was $300,000 in lawyer fees. I won. I thought, this is all over. It was just the beginning. It was just the beginning. I better not go into much more detail. But, today I'm security guard up there. We're 320 feet back in the mountain. There's beautiful black marble in there. There's brown marble. There's alabaster. It's gotten harder and stronger the farther. When I first started going in, the rock was on the surface. Your rock is not going to be as strong as it was because water comes into it, freeze thaws. So, mid-continent. What's his name? Luron
Thompson?
Yes. He became a good friend of mine, and we blasted out of here, and it kept caving in, and he stopped one day, and that's when they're doing reclamation. He says, "You need some steel, don't you?" I go, "Yeah." Next day, he came back with a tractor trailer load of steel and dumped it off, says, "There. Tell me if you need more." It was going right to the scrapyard. So anyways, we mined back in, and we got going farther, and this is gonna be too long. I can't keep going. But today we have someone else fighting, trying to steal it from me. After all these years, we're locked up in Pickens County Court, going on 14 years now. The mining law of 1872 has been so many bad decisions from different judges around the country that you can always find something that says this and something that says the opposite. And since a judge had come up with a decision, they're both right. 99% of the time, it had nothing to do with mining law. It's about politics. And I hate to say it, but it's one of the things that's wrong with this country. We need to mine our stuff here responsibly, efficiently, the right way. You shouldn't be sitting on someone's American dream, which has turned into my American nightmare. And I'm not quitting. I started this when I was 19. I'm not 19 anymore. I have the right to do this. And these guys and these other miners and these things prepared me to do this. There's one more, and I'll make it quick. I also have a vapor mine over on Elephant Mountain. And I never intend on mining it, but I want to preserve it for history. And it is just fabulous in there. I've been climbing in there. I was in City Market Center Drug reading a book in 1982, and I came across this page about this lost vapor mine by the Penny Hot Springs. I didn't have enough money to buy the book, so I just took notes. I came home and I got a map out and I got a compass and did a half a mile, and I started doing over here on the west side, and a lot of mines, but no heat. Well, then I said, wow, I got to go over there, and Kelly Grange doesn't like me. Well, screw Kelly Grange. I'd sneak around and go up over Elephant and I'd skirt one little part of his area there. And every time I came out, his dog was barking and he called the police and everything. So I had to go a little higher. But anyways, I found the thing. 3 years of looking for it, and I'm digging and digging and digging. And one day I'm up there in the middle of winter and there's steam coming out of a gopher hole. Holy shit. I started digging and digging, and I found a railroad track. Went home, came back next weekend, and started digging more, and broke through, and steam came flying out of there. It was like a month before I could even go in there. And there's mine cars and track and equipment. Van Sickle was the man. Harry Van Sickle was a mining agent. He did up Bulldog Creek. Mary Jane, Francis was a woman miner up there, and they had a relationship, I guess, but he took care of her work up there. But I found a board in there with his name carved in it. Bottles and all this stuff, and it's just me and a few friends, because Pickton County won't let me cross. Use the road that's there. Again, I'm whining now, but I'm just really telling you the truth. That place needs to be preserved for history's sake. That is so near and dear to my heart. Not just that, but there's mine cars out in the woods. I know where there's 30 of them. They need to be brought into town and fixed up and put somewhere. So we can not only just listen to us, but see it and go, wow. There was a day when these things used to be top of the line. You know? Thank you for listening to me.
Thanks, Robert. I think, yeah, I'm going to hand it off to
They're probably
Stephen, and then
This was amazing. Thank you, guys. I can't believe how beneficial this is to history. Thank you. I'm in love with the camaraderie that you guys showed. It's the sharing of risk brought you guys together in a way that seems just like such a special moment in time. I was just wondering if you could take a moment, if anyone's up for it, to try to speak from your wife or spouse's point of view. What was it like to be the wife of a miner or the spouse of a miner in that time? If you could kind of speak for them a little bit, I think it would be beneficial for all of us.
Well, my wife is right there, you can ask her.
I don't have a wife anymore.
And I didn't have a wife then.
You had.
I had a wife and I kept her pregnant with kids. So she couldn't think too much about what I was doing.
And my wife would ask me, how did it go? And I said, don't ask me again, because I'll tell you.
Yeah. It was hard on the wives.
It was hard.
Yeah, they had to put up with us.
You usually didn't talk about what we did in the mines. They heard enough
Right, yeah.
from other people that we didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
It was
some
because
guys,
of
you
fear.
know.
They were afraid for you, would you say? Or?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
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 They didn't know you were that crazy. You know, that's the bottom line.
We told them what they needed to know, and that was it. And that's usually what we wanted for lunch.
For lunch, and
Oh, we
here's
were
the
trying to
paycheck.
protect them. You know, we were trying to protect them from, you know, a couple of times my light went completely out, and I was by myself in that way down there. And they told you if your light ever goes out, stay where you're at. And so one day I waited 8 hours before they finally came and found me. You know, and you can't move. You just got to stay right there. There's no lights down there. There's no electricity. You know, there's no, because of the gas. I mean, you turn on the light, you're liable to blow the whole place up, which is pretty much what happened.
In Thompson Creek, they had this saying that if your light went off, it meant your wife was cheating on you. And you're down there on the ground with the railroad track going, I can't go anywhere, and all you're thinking about is your wife.
Would anyone else like to ask some questions?
I think you might need
To come up, but
it reaches a little for. There you go.
Thank you guys for sharing that part of history that I appreciate what you guys had to go through. Physically, the Mid-Continent buildings, can you guys tell me what fed them, how they were fed from Thompson Creek? You know, what the railroad scene was like? How much coal did you get out in a day? What, you know, out of Thompson, the Mid-Continent mine?
How much in a day, I don't remember, but I remember that.
What's going on up there?
Well,
You know,
I guess the first thing is, so the way it worked was the belts brought the coal out, and they had the big round silos that, you know, we don't have them here anymore, but
were they at the Mid-Continent site?
they were up at the mines.
Up at the mine?
The silos were up at the mines.
Okay.
And if you've been over to Paonia, they used to have those big silos over there.
Yeah, yeah.
And they used theirs to load the train. So they came down here to Carbondale by way of truck.
Semi, yeah.
Semi trucks.